Hi everyone, I'm Laura. Welcome to my channel, Leaves with Laura. Today I want to do a video about repotting one of my succulents. So I've got this Kalanchoe Flapjack here, or a paddle plant it's sometimes called. It's a type of succulent. You can see it's got these massive leaves, and around the edges it goes red when the sun's quite intense. And also cooler temperatures can also stimulate colour change, I think. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to repot this because it's not the fastest growing succulent, but this one is growing particularly slowly. I think that's because I don't have it in a pot with a drainage hole, and therefore I'm super careful about not overwatering it, and as a result I think I'm underwatering it. So I'm going to put it in a terracotta pot with drainage, and then hopefully I won't be so nervous about watering it more regularly, and we should see some more growth of it, because as you can see it's produced a pup just down there, which I'm not going to separate. I want it to be quite a full plant, so I'm going to leave it to get a bit bigger, but it's been this size for quite some time now, so I'm hoping that with a repot and some fresh soil and a few worm castings for a bit of slow release fertiliser, that this thing will pick up in no time. So I'm just going to talk you through what I do, and if you have any questions please do leave them in the comments section below. I've got all the equipment that I need, I think, which is quite lucky given the restrictions we've got in the UK at the moment. I've managed to get most things, apart from, one would say the most crucial part is cactus soil. So I've got my regular houseplant mix here, which I've put extra perlite into, and I'm also going to put some sand into as well. So if you want to know what the ratio is for my houseplant mix, I think I talk about it in the terrarium video, which I will link below. But if not, leave a comment and I will try and do a video on that as well. So first off, I'm going to chuck some worm castings into this mix. So worm castings, I get these ordered in the early springtime, come in a 1 ton sack, and I use them in the garden and I use them in the house. They do come with worms in them, so if you don't want worms in your indoor house plants, then I just get a filter, basically some sort of sieve for your soil, and then the worms get trapped in the sieve and you can just chuck them out into the garden, and you can bring worm-free castings into the house. So I'll put some of those in here. So these are just going to give the plants some nice nutrients that will be released really slowly, so there's no chance of damaging the roots. I'm going to mix that up. So the pot that I'm repotting it into is just a plain terracotta pot. I don't have a terracotta saucer for it. I've only got this plastic one, so we'll make do for now, and then when I can get out to garden centres I will go and get a nicer saucer that's probably a little bit bigger. This is probably too snug. As soon as you water this, it's going to fill up this pot and spill everywhere. So what I would do is take this to the sink, give it a good soak. When it's stopped dripping, I will then put it on this plastic saucer, because this plant is likely to sit on my bedroom windowsill, which is wooden, and I don't want any water to come through this porous pot and damage the windowsill. I've also got with me some horticultural sand. This can compact and get quite hard and make it hard for new roots to develop. So I try to use it sparingly. I do mix it in with cactus soil when I've got some in, if I feel the cactus soil doesn't feel gritty enough. But I prefer to use grit because it's just bigger. It's a little bit, it's like a tiny gravel. But I don't have any of that in at the moment. So again, we're making do with what we can. So I'm going to put some of this into my regular houseplant mix, which has already got some extra perlite in as well, but this way it's just going to make sure that it's not clanky and sort of making drainage really difficult. A lot of your tropical houseplants want to hold on to some water, and cacti don't. So they store it in their leaves. This succulent isn't a cacti, but it lives in a very similar way, and so it's also going to store a lot of water in its stem and in its leaves, and it doesn't want to be sitting in water where the roots will rot. So what I'm going to do now is just pull this out of its pot. You've got to be quite careful because it's covered in a very fine white powder, which won't do you any harm, but if you mark it, the mark will stay on the plant and then it won't produce any more white powder to cover the mark. So I'm going to try and get it from the stem around the back and not damage the pup, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, as you can see, bone dry, so this is probably going to very much appreciate some fresh soil. So I'm going to put some soil in the base of my pot, bring that over to this tray, put my sand over there to make a bit more space, try not to spill soil in my coffee. I'm going to knock off as many of these roots as I can. If you give it a squeeze, the roots should loosen the soil around and just allow you to remove a bit more of that soil. This is fairly compacted. I don't want to damage the roots, but if you fear that you're going to damage the roots, usually plants recover from that quite well. I've not had problems with plants that I've damaged the roots of in the past. But one thing I would say with succulents and cacti is if you think you've damaged the roots, when you repot it, don't water it. Just throwing soil on the floor. Don't water it for a day or two, just to give those roots a chance to callus over, and then you've got less chance of introducing root rot into your plant. So I think this is about as good as I'm going to get. So as you can see, the soil is really compacted around these roots, but as you can see, there's a few fibrous roots there. They look pretty healthy, so I'm just going to pop them in here. This is going to be pretty top heavy actually, but unfortunately I don't have a bigger terracotta pot at the moment. Actually, I think that will be fine. I just have to take out a bit more soil, pop that in there, and then start filling in around the root ball. I don't know if this is a technical method that people use. I'm not a horticultural expert, I'm just a hobbyist, but I sort of wriggle the plant around a little bit while I'm repotting it so that soil can sort of fall in between the roots. Normally, of course, you would then water a plant in, which helps settle the soil around the roots, but as this is a succulent and I'm a bit worried about damaging roots, I'm not going to do that today. I'll do it tomorrow, and if the soil level sinks tomorrow, then I will just top it up. I'm going to have a big mess to clear up later. I'm not the tidiest repotter in the world. This is also a really good opportunity to check your plant for pests. Make sure that there's no insects on there. This one's been pretty good for me. I don't tend to get pests on this particular succulent. However, I have had mealybugs in the house, I've had scale, I've had thrips, I've had aphids, you name it. I've had it, and in fact this camera is sitting right next to a giant bird of paradise, which has got a bit of a mealybug problem at the moment, but as soon as the weather warms up, that's going outside. I will blast it with a hose and rub neem oil on the leaves, and hopefully everything will be fine with that. So we'll see. It's far enough away from my other plants at the minute that I'm not particularly worried about it. So here we go. This is the finished product. You see the little pup is there. I've managed to not touch the leaves too much. I think there is a mark on, I don't know if you can see there, there's a little line. I don't know if that was me today or when I brought this plant down earlier, but anyway, never mind. It's just a plant, it'll be fine. So I hope you guys found this helpful. Watering this, I will water it much more regularly now that it's in a pot with a big drainage hole. I will water it every time the soil is dry, and I will give it a good soak, let all the water go through, stop dripping, put it back on its tray. And that will probably end up being, we're mid-May now, so probably once a week now until October. And then in October it will fall to once every 10 days, and by the time we get into midwinter and it's really cold, it'll probably be once every 3 weeks just to keep the soil quite damp. Fertiliser, as I say, I use worm castings. That's a slow release fertiliser. There's no risk of burning the roots, but it could get a liquid feed. You can get cactus fertilisers, and I would do half strength that it recommends on the tub. Then there's no chance of burning your plant. I should get better at fertilising actually. I'm never regular enough with it because I feel like I've done my bit with the worm castings and it's very natural. But I do have some cactus fertiliser, so particularly if they're in flower, I give them a little bit extra. And succulents like this would do perfectly well with a cactus fertiliser or a houseplant fertiliser, maybe something like Baby Bio you could do down to a quarter strength. And light, it likes full bright light. This sits on my bedroom windowsill, which is south facing bay window, so it gets light for a lot of the day because the window sticks out from the house and the sun moves around, so it gets an awful lot of light. It stays on that window in winter, so it's getting as much sun all day. I don't know if you can tell. This is the side that faces the glass. This is the side that faces the back of the room. So it's leaning slightly. So if you want to rotate your plant as well so that it grows more evenly, that might be a good idea. I'm not too fussed, although now that I've noticed it more, I will probably rotate it when I put it back. So water, fertilising, light. If there's anything that you have a question about that I've not answered, please do leave a comment below and I will get back to you with that, or I'll try and answer it in another video. And I hope you guys have a really nice week. Have a good day. Bye.